Yeah. Should we get into the Fox Sports drama that your now company broke, or is that come? That's the okay. I'll put it to you like this: has that come and gone? It seemed like a big deal that there were these accusations from a hairstylist, former hairstylist at Fox Sports, levied at Charlie Dixon, high level executive there. Skip Bayless has moved on from there, but obviously big TV star there when he was there. And Joy Taylor, in a way, for complicity, and all sorts of lurid, sordid details bouncing around the internet. But then you've got the serious news of the fires in Los Angeles, which we might touch on later. And it just, I mean, I'm sure it's a legal matter for them to deal with, but it just sort of seems like it came and it went.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be more to it later. Like, does Charlie Dixon keep his job in the long run for this? How much longer does Joy Taylor work there? We don't know. How do they defend themselves, if at all, in the lawsuit? Does this like go into discovery where now all of a sudden people are put under oath and we have like reactions from the court to write about? Or does it just get settled and then disappear and maybe people lose their jobs, maybe they don't, we don't know. The story is at an intermission. I think that's fair to say. And that's like, it does like provide a lesson. And we talked about this privately with, about the, like, I mentioned it with the Florida basketball coach. He was accused of a bunch of lurid things, kind of like Instagram stalking of students. There was like a reported Title IX investigation. He just kept coaching. They're a top 10 team. This has been a month or two since that happened. And, you know, if you wait out a news cycle through the weekend, something else takes its place. And that's not like, I'm not defending any like alleged behavior of the Florida basketball coach or anybody at Fox Sports. And like, that's another thing we need to talk about is like allegations in a lawsuit are not necessarily true. Like we're an innocent until proven guilty society, even if like some of those details seem very difficult to believe or true or not. It's I
could put anything in a lawsuit. I could put Ryan Glass-Steagall. I am suing him because he threatened to murder me if I would break the news of his job transition to front office sports. There's no proof that didn't happen. I'm sure we've had phone calls. Nobody knows what was said in those phone calls. And I mean, I just put that in my lawsuit filing. There's no, I think people assume because it's a court document and it's legal and it's text that they just relay it all. We saw this with Matt Araiza, where the punter who is accused of this vicious gang rape, where there was all this media reaction to it as though it was just settled science that this had happened. And then he was ultimately exonerated by video evidence, and the people who got very angry at me for noticing that first never really came back and apologized, but that's fine. And that's a whole separate topic. The point is that you can't just, maybe all these accusations are true, but you're right. You can't just assume that this is the Bible of sports media happenings, and it is so. This will be adjudicated.
And I want to make it clear, like, I think Front Office Sports did an incredible job breaking this story in the lawsuit. I want to talk separately about the wording in the lawsuit that has nothing to do with, like, the reporting on it. Because Front Office laid out the facts, linked to the suit, everyone read it. It's like
there were responsible reporting from them, I should say. But yes,
I want to. So it's like I can't figure out what Joy Taylor did that is supposed to like cause damages for the accuser. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying that what she is accused of doing is moral. And there's all sorts of like different ways that you can take this about kind of like if everything that was said about her is true, how she rose throughout Fox Sports and what that means for people competing with her for these limited spots. And Marcellus Wiley talked about how he got replaced by her potentially as a result of this behavior. But it like really just felt like the whole intent of like including her was just to like humiliate her as some type of like revenge for whatever type of like personal falling out the two had. Like, I don't understand. I'm not a lawyer, but I don't know. Like, what did she do to the hairdresser that
Nujeen Faraji, I think is, we should say the name of the accuser, Nujeen Faraji. What did she do? I don't know how to recapitulate everything in the 42-page document. There is accusations of advancements made upon Faraji by Skip Bayless. The accusation that he had offered $1.5 million to do it. There was accusations of advances being made on her by Charlie Dixon. There is accusation that Dixon and Joy Taylor had a sexual relationship, and Joy Taylor saw it as leverage for herself, and that it could be used at the point at which Dixon was no longer useful, or as a leverage point on him because she could accuse him of assault. These accusations were made. They were made. They didn't make Joy Taylor look good at all, if you believe what's in there. But I'm with you. I don't know exactly what's suable. And when it comes to civil versus criminal, very fuzzy to me. Very, very fuzzy. It did look like they had a falling out as friends, Taylor and this woman. That seemed evident from just everything revealed in all of this. Taylor is getting the most heat. I can say that much. I wrote about that. That seems like that's part of the vibe shift.
Yes.
That back in the day, and by back in the day, I mean just a few years ago, so much of the opprobrium would have been directed at Dixon and at Skip Bayless. And people would have just been assuming even more so that they had done everything that they were accused of. And people would be in vain about the privilege they had and what abusers they were. Now there's more skepticism. Now it's more glib. Now it's more jokes. Now people are enjoying the comedy of it. Now people are laughing about this accusation that Joy Taylor had an affair with a Cho that had helped her rise, and the way he's been talking about her and lavishing her obsequiously with praise because, according to the accusations, they have a thing. That's what I'm noticing, is that a lot of the hate/jokes moving in the direction of Joy Taylor, whereas they would have gone in the direction more so of the men a short while ago. And I think part of that too has something to do with the short while ago, because people, I think, got frustrated with the way some of these social justice moments were used by cynics for their own advancement. And they could see it, but you weren't even allowed to notice it at the time. That was stigmatized. If you noticed that people were using these heavy emotions and this impetus with a thing like Me Too to get ahead or to get revenge, for instance, you were told to shut up and you were potentially fired if you were noticing that. And so Joy Taylor has become sort of an archetype for that kind of thing, because she can lecture people sometimes.
Yeah, that's like the thing that makes her less sympathetic than anything, is these videos that have like circulated of her on a soapbox, like speaking in the tone of like a teacher scolding you for misbehaving, and like just lecturing about morals. And like there was one of her talking about how like Jeff Saturday got this, got the interim coaching job of the Colts, and it was like a slap in the face to everyone in the building who worked hard. And it's like, oh, well, now if you can get another job, don't go to the Colts because they're not going to promote you there. Or how she went on a podcast and said, I had to work twice as hard for half of the exposure. And I'm just sitting here like, what do you mean half the exposure? You're making like $1 million a year to talk about sports on TV. Like, what type of victim?
Yeah.
What has happened here that I'm supposed to feel like upset that you haven't gotten your fair share? Like, who has a career that you think you deserve that you don't have? And so it was like you see these videos with the benefit of, like, again, these are allegations. We don't know if they're true. And we don't even know why she should owe money, like in a civil lawsuit. But it's like you see them now and you're like, yeah, I didn't like the tone you were talking to me in at the time when you said this. And I especially don't like it now. And so like, that's the thing is, it felt like there was like a shift with her, because when she was hosting Undisputed and when she had started as Colin Cowherd's host on The Herd, she had an upbeat personality and was speaking like mostly positively, and it was fun. There was a shift around 2019, 2020, where it just, it's like I'm watching this stuff for fun. When I turn on The Herd, I wanted to have like jovial chemistry like he has with Jason McIntyre. And she would just sit there lecturing me. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Why is this? Like, why is this what I'm doing for fun? And so, that stuff now, with the benefit of whatever this new context is, it's like even more like, why is they getting lectured?
Yes, totally agree with that. And it's complicated too, because I think there were people in this era of social media who did have talent and capability on television, but they were drawn in by the siren song of this sort of fashionable resentment and intersectionality. And they started channeling this messaging, which I think is anti-charismatic, and they could have done better. I know there are people today saying, well, she's wholly unqualified. She's just there because she's attractive and she has particular assets. And I've seen that. That's confounded and complicated, by the way, that it's a television product, and it's not just, they're not just going to put people on TV all the time who are unappealing to look at. So that's a little bit complicated and a little confounded there, but let's just set that aside. I should say that Stephen A. Smith did a monologue, and while he didn't completely say these are false allegations, he, I think, was appropriately careful. He also said it just doesn't really match the Skip Bayless that he knows, at least. And you never know, but what was slightly amusing is the cheapness, the famous cheapness of Bayless offering 1.5 million would seem to belie such cheapness. So yeah, it's a juicy story, but to what we said at the beginning, I think corporations are learning that if you weather the storm for a week, you've effectively weathered it. And there isn't enough underlying outrage underneath the surface of this story to sustain it in the way that there might have been in the Me Too.
Like the New York Times and the Washington Post don't have like the power to sack anybody anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
what are you British talking about? That's so British of you to phrase it that way.
But look at like what happened with like Harvey Weinstein. That was the New York Times leading that brigade. Do you think that they could do that to somebody now? I don't think that they could.
It depends. I mean, no, but it would also depend on what was done. I mean, there's a level, but yeah, it would have to be. Yeah, it would just have to be heinous and criminal, but they used to get people fired over nothing. Rachel Nichols got forced out over nothing. Can we admit it was nothing?
That was different, though. That was like like that she was not like that. There was like a leadership shift in ESPN. The new people in charge of her show didn't vibe with her in the same way that the people that she worked for previously did. And so this was like not a crime of passion. It was a crime of opportunity, her getting pushed out over this. It was like, you hand somebody a gun.
But that's precisely the resentment that I think a lot of people have over this era, is that the crimes of opportunity were made to look like social justice And yeah, it made a lot of people cynical, a lot of people jaded, and we're living in a new reality right now. The new reality isn't totally different from the old reality, but it's different in many ways, and we're figuring it out.
That was another New York Times thing. Like, I don't think the New York Times can do that to her right now. I don't.
No, they used to just do these stories. The reporter who did that story also would do stories on how at Nike or Adidas or wherever it was a disproportionately white workforce, or ESPN was disproportionately white, and everybody would freak out in Bristol about it. And now that just seems like another time ago. Now the pressure is the other way, and the pressure is on institutions that prioritized diversity and equity and inclusion hiring. And that's under the gun. I mean, I'm looking at that in the aftermath of these horrific fires, and that debate is going on currently about, does this have anything to do with the scale of incompetence